Caucus meeting. Mr. Metrick, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Weisbord, Mr. Wegbright is here. Mr. Cilio will be joining by phone. Ms. Richmond.
Here.
Ms. Fortner.
Here.
Ms. Tedla Moffitt.
Present.
Aaron Grady.
Present.
President Mueller.
Present.
And Matt West.
Present. Given as this is a caucus meeting, we will be taking public comment first. And so I will start in the front row and work my way back. Ms. Bizak, please remember. Behind Ms. Bizak. And now on. All right. Melissa? Yeah, I figured you did. So go ahead, take your time. And if you'd like to stand up, just state your name and address.
Melissa O'Connor, 17 Windsor Avenue.
Well, yeah, we'll give it a chance. And Charlie Wilson. Charlie Public Comment.
Okay, hi. I just want to talk about the Narberth Windsor Avenue Green Park Street project. And just to come at it from like probably I'm involved in sort of three different ways with it. I'm a member of the Recreation Board, and we are currently, which is we advised to the Property Committee, and what I wanted to talk about was that we were asked by the Property Board to develop a comprehensive plan of Narberth Park. And within the last two meetings, we're in the first stages of starting this comprehensive plan of the entire park, and also Sabine, which includes Sabine Park. And this month, actually, we are starting with meeting with all the shareholders, like for the July Committee and AA, to go over the current usage and what they foresee improvements or for the future, and to help us start capturing information for a comprehensive plan, which we hope to present to the Property Committee in the end of August. It came up in our meeting that the Windsor Avenue, I'm going to call it the Rain Garden project, is sort of contradictory to what's going on with us creating this comprehensive plan at this moment in time. I know this project is out to bid again with start date possibly this spring, which seems to be like we're just piecing in projects within, the big picture. We had the Terrence porch project that was sort of thrown in there for a bit, and now it's not in there, and sort of disrupted the park in the tree lines right there. So we're just concerned that why are we taking on this big project when we've been asked by the Property Committee to make this comprehensive plan. It seems sort of like we don't know what we could use that space for. We have to examine all of the entire park. We are going to also talk with landscape architects and also just park planners to get this information to help us along. Another concern, as a resident, I live directly across where this project is going to start, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have 4 kids. I'm outside all the time, and my route is right there to the park, right where this project is going to be. And a concern for the residents that live there is that the high grasses that they're going to put in, and this is just one of the concerns, is just the maintenance of this area. Currently, tons of people walk their dogs, and it's great. I've lived there 12 years. I've never seen any sort of dog, anything across the park. We're concerned that this grass area, trash is going to be in there. Dogs are going to go to the bathroom, and it's not going to get picked up because it's not going to be seen. I mean, these are just issues, just are small, but, we live there. A lot of times we have been raking leaves over there ourselves. Also, in regards to it's just having the uniformity of currently it's fence going all the way down, tree line going all the way down. We're going to, with this project now, it's half the park, the fence is going to go in, it's going to look very disjointed. Just for, once again, how we're going to oversee this, looking at this park through the rec board. But my number one passionate thing that I'm really concerned about is, because I am there all day, I do see the kids playing there, is that this area, even though I do run the NAA, I support, recreational programs. My number one passion really is. And the only reason I bought that house is because of the park. I really strongly believe the kids should get outside and play and run around and play pickup. So I know there was a focus on the NAA sports and how that would disrupt them, but for me, a huge part of that was when I go outside and see those kids, there's the big main park. The area where we are going to put this garden is the overflow. So when the kids come in, literally every kid will play pickup, soccer, football, everything right there. Throw a catch with their mom. They're not going into the big park because they like that, like just that area that where the fence is there. It's sort of like a boundary line. Now people say, well, we push it in, then they'll still have that boundary line. No, then the kids are going to be pushed into the main part of the park, and that's where sometimes like there's games going on. There's organized sports going on. So even if there's an organized sport going on, it's like the secondary field. Or if there's not as an organized sport, but the big kids are playing in the main part of the park, the little kids go over there. It's like a safety area. It's really important. Like I left out the soccer goals this winter just because we didn't have snow, and it's kind of the first time I ever did that. So many kids have been going down to the park, moving the cages around, playing pickup. People have called me up, don't you care? The cages are getting a little bit. I don't care. I'm so happy these kids are out there playing pickup soccer. I see moms out there, so many different little aspects that we really need to get our kids outside. This is a huge problem. Huge problem. The kids are staying in their houses, they have to arrange play dates, or they're on their electronics, or screens, or whatever you call them. We, as NAA, we're going to get more equipment out there. We want more kids to play with different stuff and try it out. So because sometimes there's that child that doesn't want to go into, soccer at age 2nd grade and commit to travel soccer. But they just get exposure just kicking around with their mom or dad or their friends, and they feel comfortable with that. I think our generation had pickup and we went outside and played. We really, I don't know if we quite understand that this is not as available to our younger generation. And it's all about, well, have you been playing lacrosse since 1st grade? Well, no, I haven't. So the kid is like, I'm not going to go out in 5th grade. Well, you know what? If there's a lacrosse cage down there and they throw around, then maybe they'll feel comfortable with it. That's what I'm just trying to my main goal. So even though I do run AA, that's a really important topic to me.
Thank you. Now, you go ahead.
Hi. Hi, Kevin Sullivan. I'm at 222 North Essex Ave. I'm also bringing some concerns about the rollout of a bioswale plan on Essex Ave that I understand is out to bid again. I'm representing both the Narberth Athletic Association as a baseball coach and also representing myself as a parent of elementary-aged children. My concerns are that a creation of a bioswale in that space will reduce the overall amount of space for both organized sports and for free play. It's very similar to what Melissa brought up. Our baseball programs have really been growing each year over the past several years. Currently, a quick estimates, back of the envelope estimate here, is that we work with and assist about 500 kids each spring and summer, and that's growing, so we've seen some nice growth year on year. The earliest groups of those are playing in that very space there that Melissa describes along the fence on Essex, sorry, I keep saying Essex, on Windsor Ave. And so those are areas that support the youngest kids, the youngest age groups of the baseball program, which are feeding into the mid and upper levels, and we're seeing and enjoying a healthy baseball program, I think, because of that. Also, as a parent, I did move to the north side of Narberth for its urban feel, right? There's no off-street parking. Got to park on the street. There are no yards. You're on your own. You got to get your kids out. You got to get them down to the park. That's what you do, right? You kick them out of the house. Nice day. Get yourself down to the park. Ride your bike down there. and that is the space that they use. So we enjoy that as Narberth residents, to be able to say, hey, get yourself on your bike, go down to the park and find your friends, play some pickup baseball, soccer, football. And so I am concerned about reduction of that space and starting to feel too claustrophobic there. I also have a concern anytime you're adding a water feature that requires maintenance. I don't quite know the engineering of the project, but the idea of water that requires maintenance and a bit of that water where you have could be standing for periods of time. I'd be interested to talk to a biologist about mosquitoes and how they might work into that plan. Are there any mosquito-borne illnesses that come out of that? We host one of the coolest 4th of July festivals here on the main line, and you got 1,000 people coming in there. Is that going to somehow disrupt that in any way, either construction-wise or down in the future? So those are some concerns I have over that project. Thanks, Gary.
All right, yeah, go ahead, sir. State your name and address.
Jonathan Peterson. I live at 512 Berkeley Road. Been a Narberth resident for I think 13 years. I've a 10th grader at Harriton and a 6th grader at Welsh Valley. You want me to do this? Okay. Are we? The Narberth Athletic Association put up a petition, online petition, and they got a few hundred responses, supports in opposition to this swale. My concerns are very similar, so I'm not going to replicate what they said, but I am going to add some additional ones. Space is an issue. We had the commissioners meeting for Narberth baseball for the spring 2 nights ago, and one of the things that came up is that Penn Wynn Elementary School, which has always been of use to us for practices, is no longer available. That's just a demonstration that they're not making any more real estate. They're actually closing up on us. So you're actually taking additional free space away from us. I don't know how many of you have kids currently in any athletic program in Lower Merion. It gets harder and harder with each passing season to get access to fields. There's very little open space in this area. So Narberth used to have access to Penn Wynn, no longer. So we're going to have, and Amherst, we've lost Amherst over by Bala Kenwood. You're going to be taking away space from us as we're going to need this space more. Okay, that's a huge concern of mine, because we have an abundance of riches on the main line. It's an embarrassment of riches, except for open space. No one's given us open space, only taking it away. My second concern is that as I go around Narberth, one of the things that Kevin talked about was maintenance of this swale. All I see in that playground, that park, are things that have not been maintained. I see a non-working scoreboard. I see a permanent baseball field that floods. I see tennis courts that are in deplorable shape. And I'm just concerned that this is another toy that Narberth is spending money on, that they're going to get tired of, it's not going to work anymore, and it's just going to be a waste of money and a loss of property. Thanks.
Thank you. Sir.
Hi, my name is Pat Gaber. I live at 499 Conway Avenue. I've been in Narberth for about 23 years. I have 4 kids, just like Melissa, 9, 14, 17, and 22. They've all used the park, and this is just a bad use of my real estate dollars. So I'm not interested in seeing this project go forward. We enjoy the park tremendously, and I've coached baseball for many years down there, and it's just, I don't want to see my dollars towards this project. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Cassie Gordon. I live on Lantern Lane, 220 Lantern Lane. I have a 13-year-old boy, and I am against any reduction of park space here in Narberth. My boy has been coming to the park by himself since he's 6. He's 13. He still enjoys to come with his friends. We live in small properties, bought a small property to be part of the community. I do think we have more work to do at the playground. Like they said, the scoreboards, the tennis courts. It's just a bad use of the money. There has to be a better way. And our open spaces, you know, when these apartments are all done on the other side, I mean, the flood of and the lack of the space, we can't afford to lose it. It's not, and it's money, it doesn't seem well spent to me. So I'm opposed. And
Jeff Gambino, 428 North Essex Avenue. I think basically people will speak for me with that. I just wanted to echo Melissa. I'd like to see our approach be a bit more comprehensive in how we do things as opposed to piecemeal, and that would be even if I was more in support of this project.
All right, let's go into the last row.
Hey, good evening. My name is Steve Dorico, 402 North Essex Avenue. Yeah, I mean, I just reiterate, I think what most folks in here said, especially Melissa. I am opposed to this project. Obviously, open space is at a premium. I think, you know, as concerning is the willingness, or even just entertaining spending, you know, close to $250,000 at a minimum on a project like this without, you know, a comprehensive plan to say what can we use that money better for here in the borough. I'm down at the park probably once a week at least, and I mean, just basic stuff isn't even maintained, right? There's a rope that is on the gate for the kiddie park, right? So there's not even like a latch there. So how are we supposed to go in and build, you know, a giant bioswale, for lack of a better term, when we can't even maintain, you know, basics here in the borough? You know, I think concerning to me is also the fact that we had a recent real estate tax increase of, I think, 5% or whatnot. And, you know, projects like this certainly add to the burden, right? There's only so much money here in the borough. And, you know, it's just not a good use of the very limited resources we have. And, you know, $500,000 for the bid here, it's about 10% of our total borough operating budget. That's not immaterial. And so, again, I'm opposed to this project. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Nick Marinigo, 135 Marion Avenue. I want to first thank all the NAA people for everything they do, and I couldn't agree more with, you know, their views, and they're certainly the experts on that space. And I think, you know, we should have proper deference to kind of what all the time that they dedicate in knowing how to effectively use that space. I have a kid who's played Lower Marion sports, played Narberth sports, and plays Haverford travel soccer. I got to say, one of the disappointments of one of the only disappointments of Narberth is the condition of our athletic fields. Even compared to a place like Havertown, which, you know, it's not like it's a super wealthy area. Their playgrounds, their fields, the drainage is night and day above what we have, and yet I think there's, you know, this bioswale, the arrogance of trying to put together this kind of environmental pet project that doesn't really remediate materially any sort of problem, when there's a field with pipe underneath it that breaks and makes kids not be able to play on it for weeks, is just, it's the height of arrogance. It's just ill thought out, and it's a, you know, it's a little trophy for the folks that want to see, you know, how progressive we can be on our, like, environmental causes without actually helping anything. I'd much rather have a study on how much it would cost to invest, even if it's a lot more money, to dig up that pipe and fix it and make those fields usable. Do we even have, I mean, there's only so many dollars you have. And that's just one use. Scoreboards, tennis courts. I mean, the tennis courts, compared to what's over at General Lane, it's a joke. I mean, no one uses them because they're broken, and so then people say, well, no one uses them. So, you know, we all have to prioritize our own budgets at home. Narberth is no different, and this is an incredibly poor prioritization. So I'd urge everyone to reconsider our limited dollars, whether it's, you know, the pension fund, attracting business. There's just so many things that we could be spending money on, and, a nice to have is really not the appropriate use of our limited funds. So say that as a parent and a taxpayer, which we all are. So thanks.
Hi, Jeff Asa, 133 Marion Avenue here in Narberth. There's a lot of great things that have been said already. I want to thank the NAA also for all of their work that they do around the recreational programs. I totally agree with what Melissa said. I wasn't even aware that there's a committee that's been formed to come up with a comprehensive plan. And I would ask that, if not for the grant money that I know has a sort of a short fuse on it, that it would be easy to say, let's pause this project until the comprehensive plan is done. Because of that, you have a much tougher decision to make. I'm also sensitive to the fact that we do care about the environment. If we're at the top of the creek here, and it's going to make a difference, a significant difference in the water downstream, then again, that's a real consideration. But I've not been at every meeting, but I've been in enough, and I've done some research, and I'm wondering, do we know what the actual impact is going to be from this project, or is it more educational? Because I've heard both, that it was substantially impactful to the downstream and filtering out the runoff and making it a more pure water supply downstream. And I've also heard that because it got scoped into a smaller scale project, that it was more of an educational, and that it's really not going to have any effect in terms of downstream of any substantial matter. So I don't know if we could post what is the water quality today of the things that we're hoping to filter out and what it would be if you build it and be able to compare. And I really hope if we did do that, that the money would show up to be very well spent. But at this point, I haven't heard enough to convince me that we should be going forward at this time.
My name's Eva Rendell. I live at 107 Chestnut Avenue. And just basically reiterating what everyone else has said, I thoroughly oppose the bioswale. The space issue, I'm actually one of the co-commissioners for T-ball, and my job was to set up the field. So I actually know for a fact that we use every single inch of that field. And not only for the playing, but that's actually where the parents line up to watch. And especially in the rookies division, which is the next level up from T-ball, we also use that exact area, and that is where all the parents watch. And they're almost wouldn't, even if you did move the field 8 feet, assuming we could get the fields in, it might create a safety issue with the outfield. If a kid hits the ball and then it goes into the other outfield, it could hit someone in the head. And then where would the parents stand? I mean, you're already, there really is a lack of space there for the baseball program. In terms of the maintenance of the park, it really, I agree 100% with what Nick said. My son also plays Haverford soccer, and it's an embarrassment. Our park is actually sort of an embarrassment. Our batting cage is almost non-existent. It's flooded almost half the year. It's really had an impact. My husband is the 12U coach for travel for Narberth baseball, and he said it's actually had a significant impact. They cannot hold batting practice. So except for, like, they've kind of done some rudimentary things, they can't hold like a normal batting practice for these kids. And it's so I just feel like the money could be much better spent on that kind of thing. But I also feel that, is the bioswale really going to do anything? Because I've talked to a whole bunch of my fellow moms on the playground, and all of them who were sort of in support thought it was going to help with the drainage of the field. And then I find out, no, it has nothing to do with the drainage of the field. But I think that initially when people were backing it, they thought it was going to help with the fields. And so I think people are very disappointed that, no, in fact, this really is just helping the street, and like Jeff said, of course we all want to be environmental, but I don't think this is the best use of that. I have another issue to bring up, which is the summer rec program. So it's not lost on me that here we are, talking about $165,000 at a minimum of our taxpayer money, and yet they decided to shut down the summer rec program, which is a minuscule amount, without any notice. I think that because a lot of the parents have sent emails, and I think it might actually get back into the program, but I just wanted to bring it up. I just feel like it would be so sad to lose that precious program. I mean, these kids, and it's really it's resurrected itself from no one really going because no one knew about it. My realtor is actually the one who told me about it, and I started telling other moms, and we started going. And last summer, like on average, there was 30 kids there almost every single day, and they weren't the same 30 kids. So, you know, you'd have some people come. So there's probably, I'd say, 60 kids that were enjoying that program, and it's phenomenal. It's free play, and it's like old school. And it's why we moved to Narberth. They rode their bikes down, they play at the park for a few hours with the teenagers, sort of helping them, and then they ride home. So anyway, just 2 cents for this owner.
Carol Maurice Scanlon, 224 Sabine. I am against the bioswale program because of the cost. I think there's way better ways to spend our money than on the bioswale program. Broken pipe under the Haverford Avenue that floods the playground is one. Over by the Sabine Avenue Park, the wall that's a planter is falling down. There's trees that need to come down. Equipment needs to be maintained. The Sabine Avenue larger playground structure is starting to rot and rust. There's some cracks and holes in it that need to be maintained. And so that is why I'm against the bioswale program. But the second question, the second issue I have that I'd like to bring up to council is Sabine Avenue Park is being used as a dog park again. It's springtime. Yesterday morning, there was a woman, 2 ladies with 2 dogs over there. They locked their dogs inside the kiddie park and let the dogs have at it there. I put a Facebook post recently and got a lot of comments saying, oh my gosh, it's terrible, it's terrible. And then again, people saying, oh, but we want a dog park. No, we don't. We don't need a dog park in Narberth. We don't need the noise. We don't need the mess. We don't need the poop all over the place. So there is a sign. There are 2 signs in our park. One that says no walking of dogs is prohibited. Great. Well, we need a sign at the little kiddie park saying no dogs allowed. And I've gone over there and I've approached some people there, and one guy I thought was going to deck me because it was he was very aggressive and very angry about it. So I was told call 911, which I think is the silliest thing to do because 911 is for emergencies. I think that's misusing. So I called the borough office this week, and I was told, well, the police officers were busy on a call. I totally get it, but by that time the people are gone. So I think we need to do something aggressive to put signage up to tell people no dogs at our kiddies park.
Thank you. I'm going to go through again because a lot of people filtered into the room. So I'll start again with Brian. Well, if you haven't yet had a chance to speak and have something new to add to the conversation, I'd like to hear it. I am keeping notes of each individual point as it is raised so that you have an opportunity to respond in some way.
Hi. I'm Tracy Coyle. I lived at 422 Dudley, 511 Dudley, and I'm right now at 523 Oak Road, which is actually considered Marion, but right across the street is Narberth. So I'm probably not even allowed to talk. But I give everybody, and my husband's a lifetime Narberth resident. He went to St. Margaret's. We moved to California. We came back. We looked. He worked in Philadelphia. We looked all over and came back to Narberth because of what it is. And what Eva was saying about the Narberth Rec program, it's what makes it so special here. And the field space, and also just doing something that's not proven or that we don't know what the outcome is going to be doesn't quite make sense when there's so many other needs for the money to improve that park. And I agree with everybody else. I have 3 kids, and we're all over the tri-state area at parks, and Narberth is in bad shape, and the bathrooms are silly. So anyway, I applaud everyone for what they do. I'm a huge volunteer. I know what kind of time it takes, and I hope that we can all come to a comfortable place with this.
Moving along. Front row again. Okay. Ms. Berner.
Oh.
No.
I didn't know you'd gotten. Hi, I'm Alana Brookshire. I live at 10 Grayling Avenue, and I also oppose the bioswale. And I won't speak for very not going to address as as well as it needs to be an issue that's important, such as groundwater or rainwater management. So anyway, and plus everything else that other people have said.
Sorry, I don't.
Go ahead.
Is that okay? Well, I actually came to speak about something else, so maybe it's not on the agenda anywhere. I'm Miriam Shakow, 149 Marion Avenue, and I came to speak in support of the carbon fee and dividend resolution.
Speak about whatever.
Is that
This is
on
your
the
chance.
table? Okay.
This is your opportunity.
Okay.
You can speak about anything you like.
Did you mention
Public
it?
comment.
Yeah.
No, I assume it's going to be part of the economic development.
It will be, but we will not be taking further comment from the
comment
public at that time.
So there's
So-
yeah, so I realize there's a larger conversation going on, which I did not prepare to take part in. So I'll just speak on in favor of the Narberth Borough Council signing on to the resolution, approving the resolution to sponsor or approve a carbon fee and dividend policy at the national level. We have a very unseasonably warm February evening, so I think it's very clear that the climate is changing. We're getting hotter and wetter weather, and we know that with the flooding of the field, some part of that is possibly or likely affected by climate change. And so just recently there are people on a wide variety of the political spectra in the country really supporting various forms of carbon fee and dividends. So I think the moment is right to sign on to it. So I would urge on that second matter, I would really strongly urge the Borough Council to approve of that. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Mary Daphnis. I'm from 16 Island Lane, and I'm also against the bioswale program. And let me make this very short. I agree with all these points that everyone else said. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we're at the park almost every day. And I feel like the park is the heart of this neighborhood, and that's why I moved here, because of that reason. And I feel like taking away any land whatsoever is completely wrong.
Thank you. Mr. Moosburner.
George Moosburner, 114 Conway Avenue, and I do support the petition that the North Athletic Association has circulated. I really encourage the council to read those comments. You get a good sense of what the community feels. In reading those and talking to people, I also get the sense of, what's this? They really don't know what this is. And I think it's a poor use of funds, and I think one of the issues is the lack of a capital budget. Borough does not have a capital budget for this year, much less next year or the following year, or at least one that hasn't been put forth or published or subject to any kind of public disclosure. So, and the purpose of that is to get your priorities straight. And so when a project comes along like this that kind of sounds great, you have something to measure it against. And maybe you do it next year or the following year, but you need that priority list. And I know that you're working on it, but that I want to reinforce the fact that we do need a capital budget and would help us address these issues.
Thank you. Moving down the second row. Moving back to the third row. Anyone? Sorry,
No.
I'm not going to take additional comment from the same person. I'm sorry. But if someone did not have a chance to speak.
Sure, hi, I'm Kate Hubbard, 503 South Narberth, but I spent many years at 310 Essex. My children are growing up in Narberth. They have been through every athletic event I think you can have in Narberth, all three of them. They, the memories that they have and I have, and now they're older, but they're still very involved in Narberth and some of their sports that they are there. And I think, even as we were going through the programs, it was clear there wasn't enough space for, at times, I was fortunate enough to, at one game, to have 3 sons all pitching, which was exciting for me, of course, I didn't know who to watch. But it was clear that they were really on top of each other, and the Athletic Association was doing a fabulous job managing that space, but there just isn't enough space. We have I would propose that we increase Narberth Park if we possibly could, because we have children down there every day. You go down there on a Saturday or Sunday, they're everywhere, and parents love to come down and watch their children. It's a place for all of us to talk. The reason I know half the people in this room is because they all sat for hours and hours and hours for baseball games, football games, basketball games, you name it, we were there. And I think, anything that would jeopardize the Legion's baseball is particularly a problem. And the reason I say that is because we all know that there's a huge problem of obesity in our country. And unfortunately, boys stop playing baseball at 12 years old. Many kids drop out of, and you can ask Narberth what the statistics are, but Legion keeps boys playing baseball, which means it keeps them out of trouble. It means it keeps them active in our community. And I think it would be a big mistake if we had all jeopardized any of those particular programs. And what I'm worried about is if we consider shrinking the park, people have to sacrifice some of those various different games and things and just different recreational things. So again, I believe with many of the comments here about park being our community, I would certainly suggest you reading all the comments. I read many of them today and agreed with almost every single one. I do think that there is a lot of movement in our community that are not excited about this particular project. So I hope that we would seriously reconsider.
Thank you. All right, I will close public comment.
Oh, wait, did you get to say anything? Oh, okay.
So we'll close public comment, and we will move on to agenda item 4, committee reports. I would say, so I did write down all these notes. I would encourage all of you who came to discuss the bioswale or to hear about that to stay, because when we get to 4C, as part of the committee report for Public Works, Mr. Metric has some information, just some background history on this project, what the goals are, what the impact will be. I got a sense from the petition and other online information that a lot of that, those kind of facts about what this project is, where the funding's coming from, et cetera, and that its history to date is not out there. And so this is an opportunity, if you're watching on Facebook or if you're in the room, to get that. So, moving on to 4A, Finance and Administration. Councilor Cilio, do you have a report?
I do. The Finance and Administration Committee met on February 15th and discussed the following. We discussed first the process of collecting our business privilege tax, something we had not reviewed in a while. We were originally scheduled to have our outsourced collection provider join us at that meeting. They were unfortunately had a schedule conflict, so the borough manager followed up with them separately regarding formalization of our agreement and review of the detail of the services provided there. The committee also reviewed the arrangements both of Narberth and the school district in Lower Merion for compensation of the tax collector. And discussed one of the citizens' earlier points, we discussed a process for this year and a calendar for building both a long-term capital plan over a 5-year horizon and a capital budget as part of the 2018 budgeting cycle. And just noting the borough managers and assistant manager had a subsequent follow-up meeting with Borough Lansdale to review how they do it and are going to provide the committee with feedback. We also discussed potential additions and changes to the website and borough calendars to improve public information, and also discussed advertising some open positions on boards and commissions, which for the public's information are open appointments to the Planning Commission, Narberth Industrial Development Authority, and Shade Tree Commission. So if you're interested in the room and interested in volunteering for any of those, or soliciting additional applications.
And one more time, Charlie. One more time on those, just in case you caught someone's attention and then
Yep, sorry. The Planning Commission, the Narberth Industrial Development Authority, and there is one seat open on the Shade Tree Commission.
Those are currently accepting applications for volunteers who would like to serve on those commissions.
Correct. And there is a full set of minutes of that meeting available on the borough website.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up, Charlie, on one thing?
Please do.
So in our discussion about NIDA and at our last business meeting, we discussed how very similarly, like some of the boards and commissions, their appointments are out of line from what the original
new guidelines and some information at the business meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public safety, Councilor.
Oh, we did not have a report. Thank you.
All right, so we've got the 4C, nice and easy. Councilor Wainwright.
Let me yield to let Sean get started. This is one of the reasons I was hoping we haven't had page 2 on this, but hopefully we'll answer all these questions.
So maybe, Sean, if you could give us a history of when the interest in this biosphere started, and kind of from an administrative perspective, how we got through a series of plans to the first round of bids, the result of that, and how we are here today.
Okay.
Start there.
Borough developed and adopted an open space plan that had some preliminary sketches developed from that plan for stormwater improvements on Windsor Avenue, and that dates back to 2006, 2009. And so for several years, Borough did not follow through on any of those plans. And then when 2014, the National Fish and Wildlife Federation with Lower American Conservancy obtained a grant through the William Penn Foundation and contacted the Borough and formed a partnership. This is before I was involved and employed by the Borough for grant dollars to do watershed improvements, some of which were located and have already been executed in Shortridge Park in Lower Merion Township, and as well in Narberth Park. There were, in those two sites, stream bank restoration projects were designed and put in place and partially funded by these dollars. The remainder of the dollars are available and allocated to the Borough of Narberth to execute a stormwater improvement project in this location. So in 2015, Borough reconnected with the engineering firm that had developed the preliminary plans, it had developed the concept plans to develop preliminary plans. And so we came to put that project out to bid in, I'm going to say, October 26th.
October
2016. And we got 2 bids back that were too high, and the council did not choose to award the project at that time. So we went back to the drawing board literally and went through a second cost estimate, through an independent cost estimator, made some revisions to the project, and we are back out to bid again at this point. We've had our pre-bid meeting with interested contractors. All questions will be answered and are due by the end of this week, and the bid opening is scheduled for March 10th. At that time, council will have a number, a hard estimate, and a potential contractor that they will partner with on the project. So we're still waiting on that decision, that information to come in. So I expect there to be more to talk about at the business meeting of council. In terms of
That's on March 15th.
On March 15th, in terms of the environmental benefits, how the systems work, I'm going to defer to the project engineer on that one. He's not with us tonight, but we can ask him to attend on the 15th to speak to how the project works, how the project fits in with the overall.
I think we should definitely discuss that with the business meeting. Okay. Let me see, Bob, do you have any specific questions? And then I have some.
Well, I have a lot of, I have a lot of comments back to comments basically to, because the project engineer's not here. We've spent many hours discussing this in public meetings and committee meetings. And so there's a lot of, I'll just say miscommunication out there on this project. A variety of sides. So I'm going to go through some of the things as I have heard and seen it. And it's not necessarily in a particular order, but I will start with the dollars. If I saw a petition that said that we were going to spend $500,000 on this project, and I was in tune that that was the number, I would sign that petition in a heartbeat. That's not.
I would sign that petition.
That's why we all sent back the first bid.
So that's why, it kind of, I hate to say it, validates that petition a little bit. And yes, I, and I'm sure every single member is listening to everybody on all the concerns, but when you see 500,000 and the number that we're working with is quite different, and I wish I was better with exact numbers. I don't know if Sean has them. But we were talking roughly, I think, $168,000 for this project, of which roughly 70 or 80,000 was being paid for by the main grant from the William Penn Foundation, and then $40,000 in grant money was given subsequently by Montgomery County. So the out-of-pocket that we were working with as we move forward discussing this project is roughly $50,000 to $60,000 of a project that would be here 10 or 20 years at least. So, from the dollar amounts, let's just, be clear about that. Now, the bids came in much higher, and essentially, we didn't reject it, we put it out for bid again, but the concept was that the $300,000+ that we saw out there is not a comfortable number for either the value of the project or what I think any of the council wanted to spend. What this comes in at with the cost engineer, I think is still going to be higher, much higher than 186, but let's wait till March 15th or March 10th when the bids are due back to decide that. If it's $500,000, I don't think anybody in this room is going to have to come back because that is just a number that I don't foresee us participating in. So the numbers are really important. The second part was the concept that this was supposed to alleviate flooding. That was never really part of this project. I mean, it'll have a minuscule, a very minuscule value, and as people have pointed out very clearly, the main water issue is on the north side of Windsor Avenue versus the side that this would be on, as far as heavy waters on that street, and then other areas of the park. Sean pointed out there's a lot of different water areas that we're going to be looking at over the long run. Now the question is the long run. I think one of the things that this group and the petition and many members of the community have pointed out is they don't want to wait for the long run because these are things that they'd like to see addressed. Your kids only have so many years being 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. So as we have further discussions in council during the year, I personally would like to see that moved up to start addressing these issues this year, not next year or the year after, because they're going to take a while to formulate what is wrong and what can be done, and of course, getting the money for it. And if we wait till 2018, 19 to do that, again, we lose that many years. So that is a concern. There's a miscommunication from the borough side on when this project was put out, and the manager spoke with the NAA, and I spoke to members of the NAA that did not realize exactly that this thing was going through and what the impact would be. And we were under the understanding from the council side that the NAA was comfortable with the project. And if you recall back in the fall when we had the engineers in, the council and the engineers made great strides to change the project to alleviate the issues of the older baseball programs and move the project. It did reduce it a small amount, but it still had essentially, from what I understand, 80–90% of the ecologic value that was initially thought that it would have. And minimize the impact of the baseball program. One area we did not address that evening or in the subsequent engineer plans are things that Melissa pointed out very well today, and I spoke to her earlier in the day, where the value of that small area that we're talking about has more value than I know I recognized during those discussions. So that is a concern. I won't say still a concern. It's a concern that didn't realize, and that's why it's so important people come speak up. The timing would have been great to have realized it 6 months ago, a year ago, but anyhow, that's an issue. There's the issue of maintenance that several of you brought up on two levels. Maintenance of the overall park, and that's something that's really outside of my points tonight. I mean, these are real issues: the quality of the park, the drinking fountains, the playing field, but the maintenance of the specific of the bioswale. And I know because we have converted our front yard to high grasses, and I know how much work is done by our family, or more specifically my wife, especially the first 3 years when you're doing high grasses. And I'm not 100% comfortable with the borough staff being able to do that, but at the same time, Sean has addressed this, and he feels that our staff will be able to do that. So we have to take that into consideration. He knows the staff better than I do, but I do have that concern. Let me see what else I wanted to, address. The quality of the field, it was referred to as, we don't have what Havertown has or something else. I'm not sure this field was ever meant to be, and I don't know how you determine the quality of playing fields, a Class A field. I know at one point St. Joe's came into the borough and said, can we fix up the field for you? We'd like to use it for practice for the team. And what they could have done, the dollars they would have spent, would have made it probably a Class A field. But that wasn't really the goal of our, it's not a sports field, it's an overall park that is adequate to good to have baseball in our backyard and to have other sports programs. So there's a little bit of desire to make this, a sports field of that caliber, and I don't know if I agree that that's our goal, or my goal, when I look at it, but it's, it's a recognized concern. The water quality issue is, when I judge this program, I don't hear what others on council have to say, but this program has been termed as a pet project, as a demonstrative project. To me, this is about 70% of the first step of improving the water quality that us as a municipality, and every municipality, needs to address. Will it be a sizable amount? It's one step of what could be a sizable amount. If we don't do this, we'll still have some, if we do this or don't do this, the downstream issues will be nominally affected. If we do this and other communities do this and we do similar projects that clean the water, stormwater before it goes into the system, eventually we will improve what is a deteriorating issue because we are at the top of the watershed. So I look at this project as 70% environmental, 30% demonstrative, because somebody pointed out, you have to start somewhere on larger projects. Well, this is one area where I think you do have to start somewhere. Let me see if there's anything else I looked at that I was concerned about. So that's my comments on the green project. It'll be good to have the engineer here next week, 2 weeks, and also the actual bids. But I wanted to clear up what I could, and I'll ask if there's others on council that have other things to clear up on this particular point within this discussion.
A couple points of information. Sean, my understanding that the borough has an obligation to the state to make certain stormwater improvements every X number of years, to spend a certain amount of money on that.
Every municipality in the state is required to have a useful separate storm sewer permit, and that permit has certain requirements in order to maintain that, and when you don't, you get penalized financially. And one of the things that, the bar keeps getting raised gradually every year in terms of water quality, and one of the things that's coming up is a pollution reduction plan, and that's what methods are municipalities using to remove pollutants from non-point source pollution, more and more pollution reduction as time goes on.
Just again for information, I also wanted to point out, because as you can see, this is a very complex issue, has a lot of variables. The council members here try to balance those issues, and one of them is that there are grantors who are giving us a significant amount of money for this project, who have given us a number of extensions and made arrangements to continue to make these funds available as we make compromises to protect field space and minimize. And just letting the public become aware that there is a consequence if at this last 0 hour council were to decide not to move forward with this project, that those grantors might feel a little burned, and may make it more difficult for us to access similar grant monies in the future. That is one variable in a lot of variables. I am not saying that that is a reason to move forward, but I want everybody to understand what everyone here at the table is thinking about. To close out kind of the response to the concerns that we heard, I would encourage everyone who's watching here if you have additional questions or continue to have a strong opinion one way or another, to reach out to the individual council members who are here, who in 2 weeks' time are going to be sitting with a bid and be able. I will. Can you put that up? Bump it up on the website to just mention here. We're going to bump up some notes from previous meetings so you can get more information that way. But to reach out to these individual council members, all of us are available to you, and we need to hear from you, not only at a meeting and a public comment, but also individually where we can have more of a conversation so that we can try and understand what the right move for the borough is here.
Question.
Go ahead.
Melissa started off with a comprehensive plan and a strategic plan for the parks. I'd like to hear from council in terms of how this project fits in with that comprehensive plan. What is our vision for that park? Is there an alternative use for that space? Could it be a bocce ball court? Could it be a shuffleboard court? Could there be other uses from the NBA going forward? I think what happened this year with regard to the recreation board, we saw a new recreation board come through and they were in charge. We're coming up with the best uses of this park. This seems to be coming out of left field with regard to a use which isn't being brought to the recreation board or for recreation board to review the scale of many things with regard to the park. I think it's important. So we talk about continuity in our decisions. We decided somewhere along the line not to put a pocket park on downtown because we wanted a strategic plan or some comprehensive plan. My understanding is council is of the opinion that the need for a comprehensive plan or strategic plan for the park is the same as we have for our downtown. Why not do it all together?
I just want to say that I think a lot of really important things were said this evening. I don't know how I'm going to vote on this because we have to see what the bid will be. But I do just want to say something, address one particular, which has to do with the beginnings of this project and why council even walked into this at all. And it wasn't because any of us are particularly fervent environmentalists or were looking for some kind of cool thing to do. What happened here is that a major foundation, the Philadelphia region, had decided that they were going to work on the quality of the water in Caucus Creek. It turns out that the Indian Creek is the upper region, is the upper portion of the Caucus Creek, and in fact it begins at Narberth Park, goes through Narberth Park, down through our playground, into Shortridge Park where I used to play as a kid, and then out to the communities south of us, and finally into the Copse, and then down into, I think, the Brandywine, and then to the Delaware. So it's not like we were sitting around thinking of creative ways to manage stormwater. What happened is our surrounding community came to us and said, we're going to have a meeting of all the communities that live along the Indian Creek and the Copse Creek. We're going to bring all these people together and decide how we're going to spend $3 million. I think it was roughly the number at the time. And actually, Bob Wainwright was the chair of the Public Works Committee. He asked me if I'd go attend that meeting, and I went and attended that meeting with neighbors from Narberth Park and neighbors from Shortridge Park. And they said, like, we'd like to divvy out this money. They said, like, we'd like you'll make a major impact on the water quality downstream. And I remember when I was a kid, when Shortridge Park was really, really dirty, and it's a lot cleaner today than it's ever been. I used to play in it and swim in it, all the time. It was my play place. The even further downstream, Caucus Creek, had soap bubbles on the surface, and these streams are much cleaner today because of initiatives around, like other new ways of managing stormwater. So I totally see that there's a lot of problems with this project and the location of it, and I completely agree with Melissa about the importance of having an outdoor play space for our kids and for ourselves. So I just wanted to be clear, though, this wasn't any kind of arrogance on our part or creativity, trying to look for some way to spend money. This was really trying to be good neighbors and act in good faith with our neighbors to clean up the river. And I just need to make that clear. Yeah.
That's great, additional new information. So, Bob, I don't know if you have other...
I have other things for Public Works, but if anybody else wants to comment on this project.
Well, what I would also tell the public, because, hold on, Charlie, 1 second, because a lot of you made comments about the maintenance and repair in the park, disrepair in the park, and the next Charlie, go ahead, sorry.
Hey, so thank you, Aaron, for putting up the presentations and been prepared on this. I'd encourage everybody to read them. One thing, Sean or Matt, as you're putting those up, if you just double check, something's currently missing from the stuff that's on the website. A particular item I think would be valuable for a lot of people to see would be the footprint of the revised bioswale after the discussions with the NAA baseball program listeners, so the current.
It's not the yellow, it's the construction triangle.
It's the context of the whole park, so that people can picture where exactly they're. So I think people are getting to be familiar with it, including some of the folks in the room in comments, really kind of know exactly where the boundaries are. I think the farther people are away from the project, the bigger they are to it. That's one really crucial piece of information that I think would be very informative, is exactly where is this and what part of the current footprint in Narberth Park is it proposed to take up.
Thank you. In fact, what we did was take our paper copies of those drawings, we handed them into the audience just now due to your comment, and Mr. West is posting that packet on the website as we sit here.
Just one more. If I could sit on the other side of the aisle for a minute, just so council's aware, the properties adjoining this proposed bioswale all opposed. The properties that adjoin the bioswale, live across the street from the bioswale, all opposed. The Millman house, the Grady household, the Louts household, and Melissa's household would all oppose the bioswale. That's the People's Republic of Windsor. That's the People's Republic. Well, I take that into consideration. And let me explain this, because there's an issue regarding Hampton Avenue where the council took into consideration the residents' concerns about making it an open way. They took that consideration. They decided not to open Hampton Avenue because the neighbors did not want it to happen. I'm advising council that the neighbors across from the bioswale, the proposed blueprint, do not want this to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
What is not in my front yard?
I'm just going by what council did before.
He's not
It's good. It makes a lot of sense.
All right, Bob, let's finish up Public Works and then we'll go to property.
So Public Works met on the 22nd. Was mostly to update things. I think the key update is we're looking to hire a traffic engineer to tackle several of the projects and concerns that we're having, especially Wynwood Avenue, the rolling stop sign issues and some others. What is the proper way to address these things, both from an engineer perspective as well as a PennDOT legal perspective. And the borough staff put out a RFQ that was extremely well written for a traffic engineer. And I believe you got, Sean, 9 proposals?
9.
And when you go to recommendations for council?
Matt and I are meeting on Friday. We're independently reviewing them. We're meeting on Friday. We're going to have contact with the ones that we think are fit Narberth the best next week, and we'll have a recommendation. We're shooting for a recommendation for the 15th.
Okay, good. So there's a lot of projects out there, a lot of concerns out there that we've been just holding off a month or two until we get a traffic engineer in place on that. Our previous traffic engineer, technically current traffic engineer, is also the engineer for Lower Merion Township, Benoni Associates, and we found there's been conflicts because of their obligation, and since Lower Merion spends a lot more tax dollars on this than us, we respect that Benoni leans towards deferring to them.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, not in their decisions, but in their conflict decision. We've had these on Wynwood Avenue. We've had the your speed sign is up. There was a lot of concerns about that roadway. Given what we do as far as a correction, we'll wait for the traffic engineer. But one thing that we've been able to do with those your speed sign is measure things. And some of the interesting notes that came out was the average speed on Wynwood Avenue was 32 to 34 miles per hour on the downhill stretch. Most people, if we ask them, would tell you it's probably 40 to 50 miles an hour. It has a perceived speed because of the road width and such. So speeding might not be the situation that's the concern, but it is a difficult road. We also, you'll see sometimes they're not on, and that's intentional from Matt West's strategy to be able to measure what the impact is with and without that sign, because it is primarily a traffic calming project. And we had it on for 3 weeks, and it was interesting. It measures, once you see it, if you slow down. So it's flashing multiple times per minute. I don't know how many times exactly, but if I'm going 34.9 miles an hour, because I was driving within the speed limit, and I see it and I go down to 33, it's showing that it had an effect on me. And so the first week we had it up, roughly 30% of the cars, I believe, slowed down. The second week it went down to, I think, 9%, did you say that? And then down to 5 or 7% after that. So it's more an interesting thing because almost everybody in Narberth is concerned about speeding and traffic. So I thought I would share that with you. We're still just waiting on the sensor pole outside the Narberth tunnel to discuss that once we have a traffic engineer in place. The parking study, this is something that as long as we have a lot of involved, concerned people here, we will have another meeting, public meeting on March 23rd with our traffic study consultant group. We'll probably start at 6 o'clock. It's not 100% confirmed, but that's where we left it. And they'll open the doors at 5 o'clock to take additional comments and thoughts, and then the meeting part will start at 6 o'clock. And they should have some level of information and perhaps initial recommendation thoughts. So, if you're concerned about parking on your street, certainly make a point of putting it on your calendar for March 23rd and share that with your neighbors and network. We talked about the Green Windsor Avenue, and we talked about there. The Narberth Bridge project update, there's no update currently, but one of the things Jeff Asay pointed out was he saw it on a PennDOT list for 2019, which most of us feel is not a good idea to wait that long. In 2012, that's when we, I believe, were challenged with do we fix it or not fix it. We spent a good bit of money thinking it was fixing it for a year to 3 years. Now we're 5 years later, and we don't want to see 2 or 3 years more before this gets funded and started, because the next fix will be equally or more expensive, and it's going to be a challenge to do. So we are working on that via the borough manager, and hopefully in the next couple of months we'll have a better date on that bridge, the schedule that is a little more flexible than the chart that Jeff pointed out shows. We haven't given a roster back yet, but we are going to have a public works manager, Fran Dixon, attend one of our next meetings. I don't know if it'll be this month or the following month, just to get a little better input on how his role is changing. I think that was the primary. We do have a discussion of the borough sidewalk repair coming up later this evening, I believe. And there's also a concern about down by the park at Windsor Avenue, North Wynwood, where Aqua PA has some concerns about a valve that's underground there, and that is what they're suspecting it is. There could be more significant repairs down there, which hopefully will also alleviate some of the flooding. But the main thing is they have concerns about where the water is going and not going right now. And then one last item, Ms. Scanlon's here. She brought up the concern about the one-way signs, not on Sabine where she lives, right near the Sabine Park. They were there. They were either stolen, taken down by somebody. We don't know where they are. The poles are still there. She said that people regularly turn and go the wrong way. And I have to admit, I said to myself, I'm sure it's happened, but how often it happens? And sure enough, I was up visiting Mitch Davis, who lives next door, and within the 5 minutes I was visiting, somebody made a U-turn and went the wrong way on a one-way street. So I stand, even though I didn't correct you or doubt you at the meeting, I stand corrected.
Thank you.
And so hopefully the borough manager will work to get those one-way signs back up at some point soon. And that's what I have. Is there anything else I missed? Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to 4D, property. Council Porter.
Thank you. We met this evening right before this meeting, and there was a presentation made by Liam O'Donnell, who is Boy Scout, who is going to be doing a landscape project around the gazebo in also had heard from the Shade Tree Commission at our last meeting that they were going to find a spot to plant 5 trees on borough property, and they came back to us with their spaces and recommendations, and the committee and the office were fine with where they wanted to put them. So we're going to get 5 new shade trees soon, which is great. Sean surprised us all when he said that the graffiti in the park is gone. So the graffiti that has been down in the dugouts for about a year is away. It's gone. So history. And so I would encourage anybody who sees anything else showing up, immediately let the office know through C-Click-Fix, so that can be taken care of right away. Thanks, Sean. The 201 Sabine work, the floor truss support, and the on blanket on the other thing. The roof, thank you. Oh my gosh. Some roof repair have all been completed, so that's all done. There's just some interior painting and drywall to be taken care of. The Recreation Board presented their report, and the one thing of note to that is that the Rec Board has come to the conclusion that for the summer recreation program to continue, it makes sense for that to come under the umbrella of the NAA, and the NAA is going to be getting back to them at the next meeting with some thoughts on that. So that's where that stands right now. And then as far as the maintenance of the park, we talked about that a little bit, and that, I'm not sure I can remember your metaphor that I thought was so apt for that, about what the last year has been, and now.
Well, that was Sean's metaphor.
Was it Sean's? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, about battening down the
Yeah,
hatches.
yes, yeah.
Riding out the storm.
Yes, that you're now at a place where you can start, you've got yourself stable, and you're now at a place to start to be able to look at those things and get plans put into place. Is there anything more you want to add to that? Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have job descriptions for the employees that work on the park as we work on the Bios Trail?
That would be a question for the office.
Because I'm curious to know what their qualities are and what they do. Is that something, I know that I've seen one for Matt, and we did Matt. Have the rest of them completed yet?
But again, that would be a question for the office. That's not a function that council provides. Unless we're asked to review something.
Some, but not all.
Are they available for public review to see what qualifications they have to maintain a Bios Trail or other type of work? You know, are they public?
Sure, yeah, they're public documents. Job descriptions are public documents.
For E, building and zoning.
Thank you. The Building and Zoning Committee met on February 23rd at 6:30 p.m. in this room. And I just will abbreviate our report because there was nothing new that occurred. If the public are interested in seeing what's on the Building and Zoning Committee agenda, you can go to the website, the Narberth Borough website. You can look for the meeting date. You can click on details, and then you'll see that there are both agendas, and a very extensive agenda there, and there's also meetings from each minute. So if you would like to see what we're working on in the Building and Zoning Committee, you can do that. Just one, I would like to ask, actually I have 2 things to say. One is just to acknowledge the office for all the work they've done in improving the building and zoning permit application process. They described how it's been streamlined and much of it's going online, and more this process will be, you'll be able to access these applications and submit them online eventually. And then also I wanted to ask Mr. Metrick if you could just put out the word about the comprehensive plan and the process, and the fact that we're looking for more volunteers from the community to participate with the County Planning Commission in reviewing the current comprehensive plan that will be coming out in 2017. And I think Charlie, we should dovetail together with search for, we need 5 members of the community, 4 members. We'll have 3 planning commission members to select as a council, and 4 members of the community to select from the group. And I guess that'll happen in few months for that. I just wondered if you would say a few words about the comprehensive plan and the process, just for informational purposes.
Well, it's a process that's being shepherded mostly by the planning commission, so I'm not able to speak to real specific details other than to say a comprehensive plan is a document that covers policy and big vision, big picture ideas for the borough. Everything from where the borough is going to become, how the borough is used, how land use is to be organized, and it's a framework around which all of the other operational and strategic planning aspects of the borough operate under. Everything that the borough does operates under a vision that is embodied, renewed, reviewed, and enacted through the comprehensive plan. And the borough has never had a comprehensive plan. We've had a statement of community development objectives, which is sort of a 10 or 15 commandments of how the borough shall be run, but we've never had a comprehensive plan. So the planning commission is managing this project to create this framework. We want to get it done in a year's time. So in order to do it in a year's time, it's going to be a very lean document with a lot of just bullet points and big picture ideas that are divided up into their appropriate categories. But it's something that boroughs needed for a long time, and it's something that we can use not only to help us with our budgeting and our year-to-year planning and our capital planning, but it also help us orchestrate our grant funding opportunities and help kind of tell the story of what the vision and destiny and destination is for the borough. So I think it's a really important document that every borough, every municipality should invest their time and energy into developing.
Thank you. And just to tag on to that, if you're interested out there in Facebook land or in the audience here in participating, the time commitment appears to be about 5 meetings over the coming year to review the document, to discuss the document, give your ideas to the planning commission. Please send your name to the office.
When is the deadline for collecting these applications?
I don't think we have one. Shall we select our committee? Why don't we select our committee next month or the next? Put the names out at the caucus and electors, members of the.
So by the end of March, applications should be sent to the office no later than March 31st.
Sounds good.
Is that all?
That's all. Thank you.
All right. Economic Development, Councilor Richmond.
We worked on a climate change resolution, and so I would like to call Dr. Dan Wolf to speak to us about it.
Sure.
And allow council to ask some questions.
Sure, Dan. Usually the experts kind of stand over here by the map. So.
That's exactly where I stood 8 years ago when I presented a climate action plan to the Borough Council. And really, even though after 26 years living in the borough and enjoying all the services the borough has to offer, along with our wonderful natural and historical resources, thanks partly to management of you and your predecessors, and also to you, who helped make the community that was just a wonderful community for my 2 daughters to grow up in. I just want to thank everyone for that. But back in 2008, a group got together called Narberth Greens under the leadership of Ozzie Fox to actually look at the borough's carbon emissions. And why did we do that? Scientists have been studying climate change since the 19th century, in other words, the 1850s. And starting in the 1960s, around when President Johnson was president, they started sounding an alarm that if we don't do anything, it's going to be like throwing a down comforter on your bed in the summer and expecting to stay comfortable. So here we are on March 1st, and it's 70 degrees outside. But you can see in the newspaper almost every day some weather event that's weird because of climate change. Now, whether you believe climate change is caused by humans or not, there are definite economic benefits to reducing carbon
translates into more respiratory and cardiovascular disease. I'm a family physician. I practice in Delaware County. I see it. But the air doesn't stop at the county line. It comes over to us. So we can have an impact by reducing our use of electricity and not even care about the climate implications. So back in 2008, the most interesting finding of the energy audit we did for the municipal operations in the borough was that far and away the biggest use of energy and thus source of carbon emissions was our street lights, which the electric bill for those is about $77,000 a year to include the parking lot. We converted those to LED, that would save about 75%. Those of you who've done upgrades at home will see your electric bills drop by now. But on a municipal level, that would save about $58,000 of our tax dollars per year. Imagine what you can do with that. I did it for So, but in addition, we're also improving the health of the community and having an impact on climate change. But we can go beyond that by supporting an idea of taxing carbon just the way we tax cigarettes to discourage smoking and encourage people to quit or not smoke in places like McShay's, where I love to go with my wife and enjoy our same thing every week. Anyway, taxing carbon is what everyone from conservative to liberal economists to Pope Francis and his encyclical to the 199 nations that signed the Paris Climate Agreement all agree is the best solution. And countries like Canada and China, soon India, have all adopted that. There's a movement now to get members of Congress to introduce a bill this year to put a price on carbon and return all the revenue to us, taxpayers. So it feeds right back into the economy. But it also gives you an incentive to use that money to, say, install an energy efficient furnace, which then gets your plumber or heating person, an electrician, into your house, and that generates more jobs. People going to Ricklands to buy their incredibly cheap LED bulbs. This is, sorry about the plug, but it's my second home since I moved to Narberth. Anyway, so we need your resolutions on the local level that will support our legislatures and give them the courage to step out and say, I support a fee on carbon, it's returned to the people, and it's a conservative and a progressive solution that people can really get on board with. Climate change is a huge problem, and Congress is the right size government body to tackle it. And if we get behind us on the borough level, we're helping to be the wind beneath our legislators' wings so they can actually spread their wings and do something for us on this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, actually, if you could wait there a moment, and I don't know if any council members have questions for you as the resident expert, because there is a resolution that Councilor Richmond handed around.
That's handed around, and procedurally, I was told to introduce it on March 15th, and this would be our opportunity to get answers and questions.
Great. Are there any questions?
This is, if I'm not mistaken, Philadelphia and Lancaster did a similar resolution, I was told. I guess the only quick question would be which of our Congress folks are leading this effort from this area, if any?
Well, we are in Congressman, what's his name? Yes, Dwight Evans' district. He is very happy with this because this will create jobs, just as the city of Philadelphia's new stormwater management program has created new businesses and new jobs that people hadn't dreamed of before they came up with them. There's a bipartisan climate solutions caucus in the House of Representatives, in the U.S. House. And
for the ADA compliant curb ramps project 2017-01, based upon the project manual plans published for public bid to Albert J. Cipollini Jr. and Sons of Morton, PA, in the amount of $98,041 for the base bid and add alternates 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Borough Council further authorizes the Borough Manager to execute a contract and administer the process.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Richmond. Mr. Mitchell, could you give us a little background?
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to, thank you. Just as an update to process, we typically, and we are typically trying not to do action items at the caucus and workshop session without our solicitor present. We're doing this one tonight because we have some deadlines to meet, and we had some confusion with the bid schedule as it was coming out. So that's why it's before. Did everyone at the table get one? So what council has in front of them, and I'm happy, is everyone at the table? Oh, Tom, did you go? There's a few more copies here. I need to keep one too, so I know what I'm talking about. On the back of this page, it shows to you the intersections that are a part of this proposal. They include 9 intersections that are included in the base bid and 5 add alternates. The project is to convert these intersections that are currently non-ADA compliant, in other words, there's no ramps there, into ADA compliant ramps. And the borough applied for a grant through the Federal Community Development Block Grant Program, which is administered by the Montgomery County Housing and Community Development, for $77,000 to help with defer the costs of construction of these projects. And this fits into the, I'll use the acronym, the abbreviation, the CDBG program mission to create access and accessible sites for persons with disabilities or mobility issues. So it fits into that big picture of what the program mission is about, and it fits the borough's mission to replace these valuable community assets and make them accessible to everyone.
I would also add that people who push strollers love it.
My neighbor in his wheelchair is going to be overjoyed that this is on Essex Avenue, and I'm very happy.
Well, I'll run through some budget numbers. We got we had a very successful bid process here. We got over 9 bids in on this project, and the low bid came in really attractively low and was vetted by the engineer, Noni Associates. They submitted a letter to the Borough Administration saying that they recommended the contract be awarded to Albert Cipollini Jr. and Sons based upon their review of the business, their capability to do the project, and that they were the lowest qualified bidder. In the borough's 2017 adopted budget, we had $112,626 budgeted for the construction of the base bid, the 9 locations that are in the base bid. We did not have dollars in the 2017 budget for the add alternates. We had $77,000 of grant monies to offset that 112 for a net cost to the borough of $35,626 to do the 9 locations. We got such good results out of this bid that the base bid came in from the bidder at $51,481. All the add alternates, of which there are 5 locations, came in at $46,560. The granting agency agreed to not only fund our base bid, but also 2 of the add alternates for a total of $66,974. So we're getting 14 intersections for less than what we budgeted for 9 intersections. The total cost of the borough of $31,067. So with this reason, I just think it's a great win-win for the borough to go ahead and do all of these intersections, take care of some of these that are eyesores that I've heard about a lot that need to be replaced. And I also want to comment too that the add alternate locations on the map you see here also involve stormwater management upgrades, taking those inlets that are flattened on the surface and have the round hoods that pop up every time the rear wheel of the school bus hits it, with stormwater inlets that set into the street and are bike and but not high heel friendly, unfortunately, but at least bike and stroller friendly, and are school bus friendly as well. So
6, announcements, informational. I'll go to the mayor first. Do you have anything to report?
Just it's a time of year with regard to crosswalks. You may see in the borough we've enhanced, there's more aggressive stopping of vehicles right now. Just be careful. When you come to a stop sign, come to a complete stop. If you don't come to a stop, our police officers can direct you to ticket. They're out to ticket. Just gonna jump up and ticket. Thank you.
Any informational items for any council members?
We were, as part of the intergovernmental.
So I encourage you to come down and see that. Mr. West, do you have anything? Mr. Metrick?
I do, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Aqua America is coming to town. The utility that supplies your drinking water. There is what's called a regulator pit in the street on Windsor and North Midwood Avenues, where those two streets intersect. That pit has to be relocated and a new valve put in. This is going to cause service disruptions, and everyone's service who's going to be disrupted will be notified in writing by Aqua. The letters will be going out this week. We just found out this week that the project is scheduled to start on March 13th, so there will be traffic issues to deal with on the section of North Midwood Avenue between Windsor and Haverford Avenues. And crews will be on site typically between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. If you have any questions regarding the contract, there's a phone number in the letter. I'll repeat it here at the public meeting. Contact them at 610-324-7713. This is a project that they have planned to start the week of March 13th, so not a whole lot of warning on our end. And the installation phase is to be completed by May 2017, and they should be out final roadway restoration and it all tied in a bow and gone by June 2017. So it's going to be a pretty significant 2-month project of excavation, replacement of water infrastructure in that region of the borough. So please be careful. Please obey all posted traffic sign and slow down for the workers.
Plan your detour now.
And the Windsor Avenue residents should take early showers.
On the water disruption note, I'm glad you bring that up. I don't know when you take your shower, Tom, but the water disruptions are going to be done in the overnight hours. So there are going to be